EVs are dead. At least that's what you may have heard recently within the media and on YouTube. But why has this been said, and how valid is the statement? In this video, I'll take a look at the recent portrayal of electric vehicles and what the future holds for their adoption on a greater scale. This topic was recently discussed on a couple of episodes of the Auto Alex podcast. They were asked a question about their thoughts on EVs and their future. They said that they thought EVs weren't the future of the motoring industry and that plug-in hybrids were a better option, as well as saying that EVs will die out in the next decade. They also referenced Mark McCann's recent series in which he tried to get his dream car, the Porsche 911 992 GT3 RS, at the lowest price. To skip the waitlist, he was offered 3 Taycan Turbo S's at list price around £170,000. However, dealers who would even take them would only offer him £100,000, meaning he would lose over £200,000 in total. This sparked conversation about the used market for EVs, which is affected by the price of battery replacements, and concerns about this when warranties expire. The Taycan's depreciation may be due to the oversaturation in the market, due to the number of leases ending or company cars being returned, meaning there are too many and the price has fallen. There is also a new model this year, which could decrease demand for current cars as consumers want the latest tech. The podcast also mentioned major manufacturers not being on board yet with EVs. Toyota's CEO said that he still believes in the combustion engine. They may look into synthetic fuels like Porsche. They also prefer hydrogen and plug-in hybrids, which is where most of their investment has been so far. Mercedes also recently announced that they will no longer develop new EV models due to demand not being high enough, and have therefore broken their pledge to be all electric by 2030. Ford and GM have been hesitant to transition, as have Mazda. Honda also recently pulled their only EV, the E, and are also backing plug-in hybrids. Manufacturers have been campaigning to have hybrids included in emissions regulations as well as EVs, as they see them as a better option and thus they are in greater demand. Major companies had targets to be all electric by 2030 or earlier, but this is unlikely with their slow transitions and the petrol and diesel ban being pushed back to 2030. So what are the problems with EVs? There is still concern about range, as it is now well known that range drops significantly in winter, and this is a big problem in the UK. Electric vehicles' range is obviously significantly less than that of a petrol, diesel or plug-in hybrid, and this is still a problem for many, especially those who don't live in towns or cities and have long commutes. Residual value is clearly a problem, which could put off buyers as they know they will lose a lot of money on the vehicle, and that is even more than typical depreciation. The price is still an issue due to the cost of batteries and other factors such as the greater amounts of technology and investment needed. This means many EVs are targeted towards luxury buyers, putting them out of the reach of many. There are still longer waiting times as computer chips are still in short supply, and the additional number needed in an electric car means that long build times are off-putting. Furthermore, the cost of electricity has risen, while petrol and diesel have been falling slowly or stagnating, meaning it will take longer to recoup the additional cost of an EV as the difference in cost has decreased. As some public chargers, the cost is now comparable to filling up a petrol or diesel car, meaning if buying an EV comes from a cost standpoint, it is almost pointless. Speaking of chargers, there's now a problem. The rapid rise of electric cars in recent years means there aren't enough chargers to meet demand anymore, and this leads to off-putting long queues. Home chargers are also pricey, with some at over £1,000, and somewhere like Britain has many terraced houses, flats and rented accommodation, meaning many can't have wallbox chargers and they have to use public ones, which is costly and inconvenient. These are all problems which still exist despite large investment and falling prices, meaning skeptics and those on lower incomes won't switch to an EV anytime soon. So, let's take a look at the numbers to see if demand is really fading. Whilst not representative for demand right now, There are over 1 million EVs on the roads in the UK, thanks to nearly 315,000 being sold last year, according to ZapMap. This was a growth of 18% compared with 2022, showing if anything that the market is thriving, not dying. In February in the UK, 17.7% of cars sold were electric, equating to nearly 15,000, and this is likely to have risen in March due to the new number plates coming out. Also, sales of plug-in hybrids have fallen, while sales of EVs have risen, meaning they are now the most popular alternative to pure combustion. So then, what are the solutions to these problems? Whilst greater infrastructure will be hard to achieve in a short span of time, the best way to drive demand for EVs would be longer range and more competitive pricing. For the former, NIO recently tested their ultra long range battery, which did over 1,000 kilometers on less than a full charge. They also have a program of battery swapping, which they are rolling out across Europe to eliminate the need for charging. For price, there are a few options. The Tesla Model 2 is likely to be priced around £25,000 when it arrives in the near future. This is sure to be a success, as the Model Y was the world's most popular EV last year, and a more affordable Tesla will be in very high demand. Challengers from major European manufacturers will be the VW ID2 and Renault 5, which are expected to come in at a similar price. The Dacia Spring has also recently gone on sale and starts at less than £15,000, which makes it one of the cheapest cars in the UK, let alone the cheapest electric by a country mile. Chinese EVs will also likely have a big impact, with BYD in particular creating a dealer network across the country now. The Seagull should be arriving on UK shores soon and could be priced from as little as £8,000. This is incredibly cheap, will make it Britain's cheapest car by a large margin, and bring mass market electric motoring to realisation. However, the impact of Chinese EVs may be limited massively by tariffs. The US are likely to put them in place, while the EU are considering it as well, to protect European manufacturers, which is something Volkswagen has called damaging. Without tariffs, they would seriously shake up the market and bring competition and innovation to the electric market, something needed to take it to the next level. So then, are EVs dead? The answer is no. Demand is still rising, and the new technologies and more affordable offerings being brought to the market should further increase demand for them. As company car leases end, there will likely be greater demand for EVs as companies look to electrify their fleets, and sales of electric vans have been rising as well. Due to problems previously discussed, the market may stagnate this year as they transition to cheaper EVs, and many higher income buyers have already switched, meaning that the pricier options right now are not going to appeal to as many other people. Personally, I'm not a big fan of electric cars, but I think the future of the motoring industry is exciting, as it will be interesting to see if other technologies will be able to challenge EVs, which are the clear front runner at the moment. But for now, the EV market is thriving. It's going to take a lot more than a media frenzy, and a few manufacturers not being convinced to stop it.